Good evening. My name's Alan Bogosian. I'd like to open the July 13th meeting of the Concord Historical Commission. And while our members are here, we could all introduce ourselves. I'm Alan Bogosian. Melissa?
Melissa Selfield, full member, present.
Michael?
Michael Capizzi, full member, present.
Nancy or
Priscilla.
Chesney?
Hi, I'm Nancy Priscilla Lee.
And hi, I'm Chessie Cataldo, associate member.
And I'm Nancy Nelson, and I'll see you guys later in the meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. And Melissa, correct me if I do anything wrong. We have a couple of things on our agenda. The first one is demolition review of 535 Sudbury Road. I actually was not able to visit the site, so I don't know who went over there with Anne. Did any members go to visit the site?
I did.
Okay.
I did too.
Yeah.
Can we get your input and your opinions? Michael?
So first of all, is the applicant here, or is this just something for us to discuss?
Right, I think typically the applicant would speak first and do a little presentation.
Right.
Okay.
Is the applicant here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I think that
Right.
would make some sense. I don't know.
Okay. So let's have the applicant speak. Is it Kathia? You're muted.
Am I muted?
There you
Okay,
go.
good.
There you go.
Okay, hi. Sorry about that. My name is Kathy Anderson. I'm the executive director of the Walden Woods Project. And the Walden Woods Project is the applicant. So as was submitted in the demolition permit form, our organization owns about 65 acres of land surrounding 535 Sudbury Road. And much of this land is in conservation with public trails. It's called the Bear Garden Hill property. I'm sure many of you have visited. The parking for that is right off of Sudbury Road, and it's a very popular area for Concord residents to go walking. The other part of the site, we operate a USDA organic certified farm called the Walden Woods Project Farm on Route 2. We have a CSA and a farm stand. The farm property was purchased in 4 different acquisitions. The first being we bought 6 acres of the 535 Sudbury Road property in 2004 from Theodore Bilodeau. We bought that property for agricultural purposes, for planting crops mostly. And with that acquisition, we negotiated a right of first offer so that when the house and the remaining 2+ acres of land were to come on the market, our organization would have an opportunity to negotiate a purchase price. We then purchased 2 other large parcels of land, a total of about 12 acres from John Amendalia, who owned Pine Tree Farm for many years. And that property was going to be developed into high density housing units. And so once we purchased that property, which was a couple of years after the 6 acres of the Bilodeau land, we then had about 16 acres of agricultural fields. And we've been operating it as such since that time. So in 2021, when the 535 Sudbury Road came on the market, we went back and forth. I won't bore you with a whole lot of detail, but we ultimately did purchase it. And the reason we bought it was not for the house. We had no interest in the house because it really did not fit in with the objectives of our mission. The reason we bought it was threefold. One is that it was our understanding that one of the interested parties was planning to develop the property. And we wanted to make sure that the property remained in conservation. Secondarily, we purchased it because we were eager to have more agricultural use, more fields. The barn that goes with 535 Sudbury Road was useful for our farm equipment and other storage. And we also wanted to have an opportunity for people to enjoy the agricultural fields, as well as getting over to the Beer Garden Hill property. Right now, there is no immediate access between the two. So we wanted to create an opportunity for people to visit the farm and then take a walk in Beer Garden Hill, et cetera. So that is the rationale behind our purchasing the property. And so we've spent a great deal of time, evaluating uses for the property, and concluded really that because the house really doesn't fit into our mission, because it's not on the State Register of Historic Places, because a lot of the house appears to have been pieced together from different sources at different times, and largely because of the terrible condition of the property. I recently submitted a series of photos. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, but when the members of the commission visited the site, I imagine you did not go inside the house, but it is really, really in terrible shape, and it would take an immense investment to bring it to a state where I feel it is even habitable, let alone historically protected and preserved. So that is basically, in a nutshell, the history of our organization's ownership, the objectives we have for the land, and the rationale behind our application for a demolition permit. I do want to offer a couple of other points before I turn to hearing the commission's deliberations. And one is that if any of the members or others are interested in seeing the interior of the property, would be more than happy to have you over time. Secondarily, we would be open if there is an interested party who wants to take this house and restore it on another parcel of land, we'd be more than happy to have that happen, more than happy to turn that house over to another party, if there is an interest in that. So, and I'm also very happy to answer any questions the commission may have. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Kathy, is there anyone else or any neighbors, abutting neighbors, or? That's it. Members who, I guess we can open it up for comments now from the commission.
Well, I'll speak. Among the things that we review on a property is what the different criteria that we've established in the demolition delay bylaw, including it's the importance of somebody perhaps who had lived there, the style of the building, whether it's how close it is to an historic district, existing historic district, whether or not it's listed, in our Bible here, the Historic Resources Master Plan, which it is, but it has very little documentation. I think all of you have seen the additional documents, additional information about the property. There's a fair amount of dispute about its age, where, it's having been moved, having been changed. I I'm inclined to say we can allow it to be taken down. It is in pretty desperate shape. We tried to get a buyer for 1710 Lowell Road, which was actually, I think, more of the historic. It was more historically it had more integrity historically. And, I got a little nibble from Middlesex School, but ultimately they declined. I think getting someone to purchase this, as Kathy has suggested, would be great, but I also know how hard that is. I fully expect that the Walden Woods folks are not going to be working on this to fix it up. It will eventually become a problem, a safety problem. I don't know if you remember, there was a building on Fairhaven Road right off of Route 2 that ultimately we had to tear down because it was condemned by the fire department,
Mhm.
and it was an historic property. I do believe in saving historic buildings, but lacking the building itself meeting any of the criteria that we have established for this bylaw, I don't see the preservation of it as a priority.
Okay, I beg to differ. This is Mr. Capizzi. I went to the site. So let me ask some questions. I want to go on the record that I had a meeting this morning at the Lincoln Town Hall. This had nothing to do with the Historical Commission. Were other matters. I met with the town clerk along with somebody else, as well as the assistant town manager. But anyway, after I left, I went to the site, and then I called the town clerk because I couldn't get anybody in the planning department because I wanted to get a perspective from Lincoln about, what am I missing here? So let's talk about the facts. You have 65 acres of land. This structure, which certainly has relevance, is sited at the corner of Sudbury Road and Route 2. So I would assume that it could be parceled out with 1 acre of land, and that leaves you with 64 acres of land. And there could be an effort to restore this. I'm confused as to why or how, and I did speak to the Conservation Commission, who suggested that I communicate directly with you. Again, I called them just to get their perspective. I wanted to see what I was missing, because the structure has relevance. Yes, there's deterioration. There's no question about that. But there are many structures that are this old that are deteriorated. This obviously has been unoccupied for quite some time. But it would seem to me, with your mission, which is extraordinary, with Walden Woods, that this is an extraordinary mission, and with the relevance of the property that you own, that you can't figure out a way to take this 1 acre of land in the corner, which doesn't affect the other 64 acres, and figure out a way to preserve that structure. Because it makes sense, it would seem to me that the way the house is sited, that when it was originally built, given the fact that the front facade is facing the corner of Sudbury Road, that it had other land on the road and over on Route 2, et cetera. So I think that, as you just eloquently stated, that if there's a way of connecting this structure with, as I said, 1 or 1.5 acres of land, that you should be able to find a viable buyer to restore that house. I certainly, from my work in historic preservation, feel, and given the resources in the town of Lincoln, where I lived for 20 years, knowing the resilience of people to preserve things in that community, it would seem to me that this would be an easy thing to accomplish, over, a 5 or 3 or 4 month period. My understanding is you took title to this, a year and a half ago, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
2021, yes.
Yeah. So you agree that the house is sited at the far corner of the 65 acres. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so it would seem to me that as a member of this commission, understanding our mission and understanding our role, that we need to absolutely issue a delay to give you the opportunity, working with extraordinary public servants in Lincoln or in Concord or whoever, to try to find a way to get back whatever funds you paid for this thing, so the cost benefit ratio is there, and to preserve the structure. So I'll stop, and I certainly make a motion to issue a delay, but clearly we want to hear other perspectives.
Nancy?
Nancy Priscilla Lee, you're
Yes.
talking about me. Okay.
Mm.
So first of all, I just want to clarify, you're not, you want to keep the barn, is that
Yes.
true?
That's
Okay, because I went over there and the barn was actually open, so I could have a little peek in the barn. And it's hard, I did look in the windows of the house, so it is hard to see what kind of condition the house is in, especially the second floor. And and there's so many weeds around it. It was, I could look in the window and get it, and I had an idea, and the pictures give me an idea too. I think I'm on the fence about this because I don't know, I don't really know the condition of it. I don't know how much in danger it is of falling down if you just were to leave it there and do nothing, and use everything else that you have on that property. If you don't have the money to restore it, that's going to be obviously a problem, and it's going to serve no one's benefit if no one's ever going to live there. And I guess I'm a little bit confused about Michael's suggestion of someone buying it, just that corner. Are you suggesting that someone else would be the landowner then, and it would be
Well,
set?
what I'm suggesting is this: their mission is to preserve the historical integrity of the landscape in that area. Okay, now we have a structure that has relevance from any criteria I've ever seen. Okay, not only working in the commission, but as a real estate developer who has restored historic structures, either that were on the National Register or were placed on the National Register, and as a public servant. To me, it's not logical that you have 65 acres with their mission, and this structure, which is relevant, yes, it's deteriorating. We all know that structures deteriorate. And, this house I'm living in, we put $1 zillion in restoring this. So there absolutely is. Now, I'm not going to say I can call somebody who I know might be interested, but there's no question in my mind that divesting of 1 acre or 1.5 acres that meets the zoning code to save that structure makes one heck of a sense. And the barn, to be honest with you, I did not see relevance in the barn unless somebody came up and said, in the month, it was designed by, this prominent architect, or it was built by this prominent contractor, or this particular thing historically happened here. So I didn't see relevance to the barn in terms of preserving the house, because they want to use the property. It seemed on the last communication I saw was something about expanding the parking in the area, but I could be wrong about that. But there is no question in my mind that the structure has relevance. And if in fact we issue a delay, or we post this to the next meeting and it allows Walden Woods to come back with some structural perspective that for whatever structurally reason, which I don't, I didn't look at the structure, I didn't go into the structure, but clearly the fact that it's standing there and none of the elevations have collapsed tells me there's viability in preserving it. And it just, the whole concept of demolishing this is a dichotomy of their mission, but they're here, they're legally, allowed to do this, but it doesn't make sense. And I don't believe, certainly as a member of this commission, that I'm going to say, yeah, why don't you just take it down? No, I think we should issue a delay or allow them the opportunity to come back and make a presentation, which may, you know, which may present the fact that this, for whatever reason that I don't imagine, it cannot be preserved because divesting 1 acre or 1.5 acres and preserving that house makes sense. Okay, very simple. This is what we do. This is why we're here.
Yep, no,
Preservation. And that's why Walden Woods is here. That's what they're doing. And your mission is extraordinary. So you know that.
you've made some good points. Chessie?
Yeah, I think, I put a lot of stock into the members who did the site visits and their impressions. But I think having heard everything and read the application, I'm more leaning towards Melissa's position. I would also point out that the addendum that was submitted was written by Neil Rasmussen, who is basically an encyclopedia of Concord historical knowledge. And I don't think he did a lot of work on the roads research, or he helped me a lot on my roads research. And I don't think he would take lightly a lot of these statements that he made in his conclusion. And so I think based on his concluding paragraph, which of his email, which everyone can see online, I would vote to allow the demolition to take place.
Okay. Who have we missed? Any other comments?
I would just like to say one thing, that Michael, if you do have someone who would be interested.
I probably could find someone. I probably could find someone in 2 weeks to buy the house. No question about it. But I'm not offering to do that because I don't think that. I mean, I see that as a something that we shouldn't be doing. I don't think that I can advocate to save the house and find somebody to buy it because
I disagree,
in my opinion,
because
I know you disagree on how you approach in your style. Mine's different. I would not advocate to save it and then find somebody to buy it. I don't think that's right for me.
What I'm suggesting is one of the things that we are, I think, encouraged to do as a commission is to actively find someone. For example, the 1710 Lowell Road, I did try to find someone. We even had someone from California who was interested. Ultimately, financially, it just could not work out. So
here's what I say. If Ann Clifford or whoever at the planning department or the commission sends me a letter that says it's not a conflict for you as a member to go out and find somebody to buy that house, I will do it. That I will say that. But until I get something in writing, I'm not.
But I don't think they can do that, Michael. I don't think they can. I think we as a commission, like Melissa was saying, we can search out people to help with the preservation of a property.
We can go out and find somebody to buy something to save.
Right.
Okay. Well, if I will, I'll have an attorney look into it. If they tell me in a day or two that I can, then I certainly will reach out and try to find someone. Very simple. Happy to do that.
I don't know the proper procedure, but I think we would have to sit with Kathy at Walden Woods,
right,
or at least postpone this the next month till we put a plan together. Right,
but yes, I'm happy to help in any way that I can, but I'm not. I just want you have my perspective. I don't think I need to repeat it. Mm-hmm. I disagree with Melissa. I disagree with Francesca. We're here to preserve historic structures. That structure has relevance physically, psychologically, and what's going on there. So it's just the dichotomy of who we are. And I'm going to stop talking.
I guess at this point, Ann, and tell me if I'm heading down the wrong path, but would we have to make a motion to move this to the next meeting so we could do further research on this, or
Well, I think you should invite public comments again, just to. and I-
Okay,
There's a hand raised here.
oh, I don't see it. Okay,
Oh, Anna Winter.
okay, Anna, yeah, sorry.
Hi, Anna Winter, 393 Estabrook Road. And Michael, I'm a kindred spirit. I'm the executive director of Save Our Heritage in
Yes,
Concord.
I know you.
And,
Yes.
and I
Your,
have,
your
spent-
reputation is impeccable.
well, thank you. I'm not sure. That might be a little bit too
Well,
flattering.
it is. Well, it is.
But I've gotten my hands dirty for many, many years restoring many 18th century structures. I've done about 6 of them. And one of them, of course, was Barrett's Farm. And Michael, you know, I can't stand to see historic homes destroyed. But on the other hand, I know firsthand, and you probably do too, that these are labors of love and they cost an enormous amount of money. The Lowell Road house is something that, you know, we're all, I mean, if we could only find someone that would take that project on, but we all know it's really millions of dollars that goes into restoring a house. When a house has a lot of its authentic integrity and materials, then you can really think about is it worth it? Yes, indeed it is. And if it has a significant history. Sadly, this house is really, it's a mishmash. And I've seen a lot. I think it'd be wonderful, Michael, if you would want to come over and check it out, actually go inside. It was a combination of 2 structures. So someone at some point took a small structure and took down another structure and pieced it all together. You can see it up in the rafters. You know, they flipped, you know, beams sideways. It's really quite something. So sadly enough, it has a lot of 20th century materials and very few 19th century. You know, it's something that people piece together over time. Never had any chimney stacks, was probably heated with a Franklin stove. And it's in,
Excuse me, I thought I saw a chimney stack there today.
oh, there are chimney stacks, but they were put
Yes.
in after the fact.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they are
Okay.
not to date of the 19th century. So anyhow, it's one of those things where I think it would make you feel a little bit better if you went there and were actually able to see it. It's not of a whole.
I did go there today. I spent about an hour.
But you didn't go
Walked
inside.
around both structures. No, I did not. I looked inside, but I
Right.
didn't
You have to go inside, come down to the basement, check it out. The hills are rotting. There's one.
With permission of whomever, the commission or the planning department, I'm happy to go and look and help in any way, shape, or form. And if in fact there is some structural deficiency that, you know, I certainly couldn't observe it there. But again, I'm the wrong person to talk about structural deficiencies because I've saved a lot of structures that had structural deficiencies.
Right, and
I do know the cost benefit. I understand the cost benefit that you're talking about, but the fact is that given what the costs are for materials now, I know Alan knows this particularly. The cost of materials, the cost of labor, the cost of everything on any historic preservation project is out of sight right now. But again, that's not what our mission is. Our mission is to preserve historic inventory and infrastructure, and that's what this is, and it meets the criteria.
okay, here's the thing though, and I won't say much more, but then the question is, what are you restoring it to?
Well, no, exactly what it is.
If it doesn't have if it really doesn't have much of a 19th century materials in it, what are you doing? You basically have to just make a completely new house, and then you can decide what time period you want to bring it to. So with Barrett's Farm, it had, quite a bit of its original, so it was worth rebuilding and to quite, an extraordinary amount of money to do so. But this house is it will be unclear of what time period you're actually trying to establish. And when you do that, the house is basically brand new. So I'll leave it at that. But again, if, you know, we were all hoping that there was more in there than there is. So.
But let me ask a question. Did anybody ever call, have a broker or somebody come in to see if they could market the house?
Yeah, Michael, I did call some people that I worked with that have also done quite a few restorations.
Right.
And they came and looked at it because they looked at it from the outside and were intrigued. And so they did come and they gave me their opinion, which was pretty much the same thing that we had come up with, that it was two houses put together, moved from different areas, and you utilize salvaged materials from other houses. And so they were not interested. We were hoping they would be interested in either taking it or doing something with it, and they were not.
Okay.
There are some things in it that hopefully would be salvaged. There's one floor with interesting floorboards. Certainly, I'm sure the Walden Woods project will be very interested in saving and recycling anything possible that
Sure.
live on somewhere else.
Well, I gave you my perspective. I gave you my mission as a member of this commission. Other people disagree. Well, that's their perspective. I'm happy to help in any way, shape that I can, if in fact I'm allowed to. But, you know, again, I'm one vote, and I'm happy to do whatever, but I want to make it clear that I have one mission: preserving historic structures. That's it. No matter who it is or what it is or whatever, if it meets the criteria, that's what we're here for. So I'm happy to work, help in any way, shape, or form. Okay?
Any other public comments?
Hi, my name's Dan Schmidt. I'm the director of I work for the Walden Woods Project and run our farm. And we purchased the property in part to prevent the development of the property, but also it has some very valuable farmland, which we're turning into additional fields. Now, I know that we have 60 acres there, but the majority of it's not really very usable, or a lot of it's wooded, a lot of it, this in particular is useful to us, and the barn is also very useful to us. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the idea of giving it to someone would involve it moving to another location. We want to keep the property and to utilize it, not to break it off and resell it, not to mention the value of it and the cost that we paid. I don't know, that probably would have ramifications on that end too, but I'll certainly leave the rest to Kathy if she has any other comments about it.
Well, yeah, I obviously concur with everything that Dan said. I mean, the reason that we negotiated a right of first offer for this property almost 19 years before it came on the market was because we wanted to ensure that we had an opportunity to buy it, because for the very reasons that Dan said. The farmland, we wanted to increase our organic farm and agriculture. We wanted to create a connection between Bear Garden Hill and the agricultural fields. And the barn was certainly useful in the context of our agricultural mission. So when you're talking about selling off an acre and a half of a little over 2 acre parcel of land that we paid about $1 million, I think it was 1.2 million for this, that's just not going to be feasible for us. I mean, we bought it for a reason, and we're not going to sell it because we went through a great deal of fun. I mean, there was public fundraising to acquire this land for our mission-related purposes. And if I could just say one more thing, there seems to be a bit of confusion about the Walden Woods Project's mission. Our mission is not preservation of historic structures. It never was.
I know.
And it falls, not that I don't fully support that, but there's no connection of this house to Henry David Thoreau whatsoever. Our curator and Thoreau scholar looked exhaustively for some substantiation that Thoreau was ever in this house, and there is none. But that aside, that is not our mission to preserve
Right.
historic structures. Our mission is land conservation.
Right.
And that is why we bought this parcel.
Right, and I believe I referenced that in my presentation, that I admire your mission and I realize it's preserving landscapes, it's preserving farmland, etc. However, you come before us for a demolition, or let me rephrase it. What's come before us is to agree or disagree whether the house has any relevance to be preserved, and I believe that it does, which has nothing to do with your mission, but I find your mission meritorious. I don't believe saving it is going to infringe upon the other 64 or 63 and a half acres that you have available to you right now. So that's all. Just,
With all due respect, that's not the point about infringing on 64 or 60.
well, no, okay, great.
You can't just take a house without any land that goes with
Well,
it.
I guess I was pointing to whatever minimum amount of land to save a
I
historic
think
structure.
it's 2-acre zoning in that area, but
Right, okay, well,
which is
so-
just about the entire parcel,
Right.
by the way.
well,
Any other comments?
I guess I just, to follow, I didn't finish what I was going to say. Also today I saw, well, that probably doesn't matter, but there was a skip there that when there was a lot of wood in the skip. So you must have already started trying to clean up the property a bit. And I understand that you're, to me, it doesn't make sense that you would sell off a part of it. I understand what you just said. And so, and you probably don't have the money even to restore a house like that, even if you wanted to just keep it as a shell, right? Because I do too have, I'm sad that it's an old house and I would have trouble just saying that it could be demolished. I'm on the fence here, but it is a farmhouse. You do run a farm operation, and if you were telling me, I think that you would, if you had the money, that you would like to incorporate that and maybe change your stand there where you sell what you grow. You know, if you tried to incorporate that into your project and it wouldn't become a burden to you, that would be different to me. And as I said, I think if we say we're not going to give you permission, you're probably just going to wait the year, and by that time it looks like it's in poor condition anyway, and it's going to be condemned eventually. So it's something that I'm keeping in mind in my in how I vote.
And just for my own clarification, was that property listed as a separate entity at one time? And then there was a boundary adjustment which incorporated into the other 64 acres? Was that a standalone structure at one time?
There was the parcel total parcel size. Dan, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but the parcel that was 535 Sudbury Road was a little over 8 acres, and we bought purchased and annexed to the farm 6 of those acres, leaving a little over 2 in the house that we
Right.
bought.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry, that's correct. The other thing is, I mean, when we initially bought it from Ted Bilodeau, we tried to figure out if there was a way that we could utilize the house, and it is in such bad shape. I mean, first of all, it doesn't really have a foundation. The foundation on the original house is just a crawl space with wooden posts and some stone. So, I mean, at the very least, it would have to be moved. You'd have to put a new foundation under it. The exterior of the house is so rotted in places that the frame, I'm sure, is also rotted. So it became apparent to us fairly early on after we purchased it that, you know, this would be a really major expenditure of money to put that house into any kind of form where it could be used. And, you know, I know a fair amount about construction. I had my own contracting company for years before I worked for the Walden Woods project. So, you know, we took a very serious look at it to see if there was really any possible way to, you know, utilize the house with you know, becoming, you know, major, well, it's a major money pit.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think, you know, obviously it's unfortunate, but yeah, it is really in bad shape. And would cost an extraordinary amount of money to put it into a condition where it would be utilizable. Even if, you know, if we decided to go that way, I don't think, you know, it's not really an option because of that.
Okay.
We took down a fence, so that's what you're seeing
Mhm.
on the other part of the farm that had rotted, so that we're going to be probably replacing some of it at some point, but that we haven't done any demolition of anything on the property. Obviously, you know, we went and we're waiting, find out from you what way we can go. So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? So I guess the next step is to either make a motion or to come up with some resolution to this. Do anyone want to?
I'm happy to very proud to make a motion to issue a demolition delay on the structure.
Do we have a second? Okay. So there's no second on the issuance of a demolition delay. So this is where I'm going to need some guidance, Ann.
Well, I would make a motion that we allow the demolition of the property. However, I would ask that they, you know, complete photo documentation, which is what we ask.
Mhm.
And any other research. I know they've done certainly some research. I know Neil has done research, you know, because I point out that the last time the Macris forms that is for on this property date from 1991. And there has not been that much more work other than what I believe Neil has done. I think looked into elected Trich, former historical chair. That would be very important because that's part of sort of, you know, we take a building down, we want to make sure that we have documented it, its history and photography. I do go back to say that I know the building has been moved. It doesn't have a lot of historic integrity other than the fact it is an old structure that has a lot of newer components. And because of that, and because it's not associated with any particular person, any particular style that is unique. I feel it's allowable to have it be demolished. So that's my motion, that we would allow it to be demolished with documentation. That would have to be submitted to Anne and eventually put on deposit in special collections.
Right, and I think just technically, I think the motion needs to be whether it's preferably preserved or not. So you can just say that it is not preferably preserved would be.
So, okay, so I moved to that 535 Sudbury Road should not be preferably preserved. Ugh, I hate doing this.
Now, is there a second on Melissa's motion? Nancy, you're muted.
I'll second that.
Okay. So now we can take a vote on Melissa's motion. Michael,
Unequivocally not.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jesse,
Yes.
Nancy, Nelson, is she here or no?
There.
Okay, and I vote yes as well.
I vote yes.
And Melissa votes yes. Okay. So it passes the demolition. The structure is not preserved. Anne?
Right, that's right.
So
So
we're done.
that's right. You've
Yeah.
taken a vote.
Okay.
So the structure has been found to not be preferably preserved, and you're
Okay.
requesting documentation from the applicant
Right.
for the documentation. Mhm.
Kathy?
Well, thank you very much for giving thought to this. I know this is not an easy decision, and but I really think that based on what all of us feel about this, or most of us feel about this property, it doesn't have a great deal of historic integrity to it. So we appreciate the opportunity to submit the application, and we will certainly provide the documentation. Who would I interact with concerning the documentation so that I know what is needed?
That would be me
I should.
and the planning
Touch with
division.
you, Ann?
and Clifford. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, we will do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. After that public hearing, we move on to other businesses, but before we do other business, I'd just like to go over the Squaw Sachem Trail that we were working on, Melissa was working on. So if I could just interject this for a little bit, because there was a letter to the town manager today from the residents of Squaw Sachem Trail. So Melissa, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Did you
Yes,
see
thank
the
you.
letter?
So, yeah, and then a lot of other documentation. I'm sure you saw the back and forth from Joel Edgerton, who is sort of the Edgerton, that's right, his name, who is the are you here? Who has been kind of the lead representative representing the community of Squaw Sachem Trail. That he has considerable he went back and forth with Elizabeth Hughes, who had asked him to provide a fair number of documents because it does need to get, I guess, approval from the planning board.
Mhm.
And eventually the police and fire do have to be notified and have to approve this. I think that I'm not for sure, but my understanding from Joel that they do acknowledge that there may be some issues with tax documentation in order to make sure that the name change is they notify all the appropriate parties, I guess.
Including mortgage companies if there are, or
Yeah.
Right.
And the process of that, I think they're working with and through Elizabeth on all of that. And I think she's helping direct them to the police and the fire department. But they've already notified the land trust, which has the name of the trail. So their choice, and I think they presented to us before, is to name it the Sachem Trail, just call it Sachem Trail, which is respects Sachem being a leader, but it no longer has the kind of now collectively understood to be pejorative squaw anymore. So I one of the things that Elizabeth had asked of the neighbors is that they get approval from the historical commission. And so I think that's kind of why I was asking you. I think perhaps it would help if we took a vote on our, that we support this name change. So that's kind of what I was asking of you earlier.
Okay. We need a motion in order to do that because it's progressing along pretty well. And, that's documented from the latest letter from the residents of the street. So,
I just have one interjection. I understand the problem with the term squaw. However, I don't know what I didn't hear, unfortunately, I didn't hear that presentation that Joel Edgerton gave. Maybe I should go back and listen to that tape. But there was a female sachem at the time. And so that this takes away, sachem can be a term, it is a term for leadership. But I think, I don't.
Well, the whole issue has been, they have done a lot of studies. We've contacted native people. No one has her name.
Yeah, no,
proper
I
name.
know, right, I know. I've been
And-
doing research on this myself on something else, so yeah.
Yeah, and so we've been looking into this for a couple of
Right,
years.
right,
And
okay.
actually, there have been a number of community residents who've been very concerned about the term squaw for a
Okay,
long
good.
time. So that's why they feel it's important to change the name, but they felt this was an appropriate change. This is close to what it used to be, but it no longer
Right.
has squaw.
Okay, I guess I can go along with that. It's sad that it takes away from her, because she was a person, there was a person whoever that one person was. It just takes away that gender attachment, but if there's no other name solution, I'm agreeable to what they're suggesting.
okay. So we would, in this case, make a motion for our support, or,
Well, if you like, I'll make a motion. I think they just need a simple letter from the historical commission. And
Okay.
that's what I gathered from the back and forth, saying that we would support the neighbors' effort to change the name to the Sachem Trail.
Mhm.
And, out of respect for actually the Squaw Sachem
Yeah.
for who it was originally named.
so, and if we could we draft one of those letters up and sign it from the historic commission?
Yes, no problem. But did you want to continue with the vote just to make sure that everyone does agree? I think Melissa sort of made a motion.
Motion?
Does you want
As you
to second it and take a quick vote first?
Yeah, Melissa?
Oh, well, so I made the motion, so I need to, so I made the motion, so somebody has to second me.
I'll second you.
All in favor of Melissa's motion? Michael,
Aye.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jesse,
Yes.
Alan, yes?
Okay.
So it's unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. So we will draft up a letter in support. Okay. Just make a note. Now on to the other business, number 2, 3, and 4. So there was I haven't actually been following this all that long, but section 106, and Melissa, could I defer to you to explain this a little bit this is for the Route 2A project?
No, this is for the, I think Margie Brown, are you here? I see your names here. I know it's Simone with you. This is the Minuteman National Historical Park.
Okay.
This is part of the, remember, they're doing a great deal of rehabilitating of their properties, their landscape. The structures there, part of that, their Great American Outdoors Act,
Okay.
they received $27 million. And so they have been submitting to us documentation, methodology. And in this case, it's about the archaeological work they're going to do. Also the signage, so that there was a big packet in one of these documents, all the new signs that they will be proposing. I don't know, and I have to ask you, Anne, I think we just here there are, you know, if Margie has additional things to discuss to us, I don't know that we vote on this. We just, all right, I defer to you on that, and I'm not sure about that.
Right,
But-
this is just, I believe that you would be acting in an advisory capacity. If you had any comments, then they would take those into consideration, but it wouldn't necessarily need a vote.
Yeah, I don't know how all you looked at, I work for, well, Nancy Nelson's not here, but I work for the park, and this has been a long time. They're in so desperate need for new signage. It's just to see these, you know, strong, the ye old National Park brown. It's just, it's so important to have these. They're clean. They provide direction to the people who will come to visit them. They need that. The landscape needs a fair amount of work. And I guess that's the one question I would ask Margie. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me? 'Cause
Yes.
I cannot get my video on. So
We
I'm
can hear
here,
you.
but you can't see me.
Okay.
But we can
So,
hear you.
I just do have one question because I've driven around a lot. I walk the trail a lot. I love the park. It will, so reading some of the stuff, I don't actually fully understand some of the terminology and technology or technological terms, but you know, there's a lot of overgrowth on the landscape. Is that going to be, so like the beautiful stone walls that used to define the land, will the vegetation be trimmed back? And is that part of this landscape plan? That's sort of a dumb little question, but it's personal.
Well, yeah, so, and it will be accomplished in multiple contracts. So, we'll have a tree contract that will, take down some of the trees that have grown up in what were previously open areas. So examples would be, in the North Bridge unit, kind of the west slope of the Buttrick Gardens has grown up. And then in another area in Concord is the Beatty House site. So that's at the intersection of Lexington Road and Bypass, North Great Road. So that area had the Beatty House that was taken down, but there wasn't really a plan for that landscape parcel. So that will be kind of cleared out and restored to what would have been an open agrarian setting. We're working on some of the houses, and so each house will have a more maintained landscape, including the stone walls. We are making some progress on just getting vegetation off of the walls, but as you can imagine, it's kind of slow going. So then there's another component, which we're talking about this evening, which is the landscape piece. And that does include not only clearing vegetation off the walls, but also restacking in selected locations. So for example, at the North Bridge unit, a lot of people kind of clamor over the wall at Monument Street. So it will be within the scope to rebuild that wall and make sure it's all sort of snug back together. Any specific sections that you're curious whether they're in the scope?
I have a question. I don't know that where Monument Street, where Liberty Street runs into Monument Street, as you're coming down Liberty Street, and to the left, the wall has completely tumbled into the weeds, especially the closer you get to Monument Street. I don't know if that's all parkland, though. I was wondering.
Right, it does. Parkland ends where the field on the left,
Yeah.
which I think is what you're asking about. Parkland ends when you get to the end of the field. So, and there's a stream crossing in there, but we don't own, where it becomes wooded, we do not own that land.
Okay.
Any other specific questions about, what it's a very extensive scope. And, you know, we're thrilled. The park certainly needed this infusion of funds.
I do have a question about the archaeology. I know in reading through this, it does kind of directs you to some archaeological potential finds around some of the, like Joshua Brooks and all. I mean, I know that the park is very careful, and because this is an issue, you know, we don't want people scrounging around in delicate archaeological sites. So that will be very protected, of course, yes?
So we, probably the largest archaeological project component that's been completed to date was for the house sites that are currently being rehabbed. So you'll see quite a bit of work at the East Quarter Schoolhouse, George Hall, also, et cetera. So those sites have been, had multiple shovel test pits, and we have the results. I'm pretty sure that there was a copy that was shared. We certainly don't want to share that report widely. Since you're Concord based, I will say that in Concord, we had no significant fines associated with that septic study. We did have significant fines associated with the North Bridge Trail rehab study. And that study, we have not received the final report for that yet.
And you've already started in Lincoln already on some of the structures there, cleaning them up and whatnot. This is the same project, correct?
Concord and Lincoln,
Yeah.
work is in progress, and each site is marked with a sign, and it's pretty clear. They have got some big crews out there. They're working away. Yep.
Yeah, no, they're going gangbusters. It looks really good.
Yeah, so we currently have a buildings contractor. We have a National Park Service building specialty crew. That's our historic architecture and conservation engineering group. They have a youth group with them, the SCA. So we have some young professionals who are being trained in building conservation. And we have another contractor who is currently replacing boardwalks, and they are working in Concord.
Nice.
Lined up is sign contractor that's on our list to talk about tonight, and also a tree contractor is just received their notice to proceed.
Okay.
Did you have any specific questions related to the sign?
I just have a question. So I saw the signs that are on our submitted documents. They're just the brown signs that say welcome to the park, right? What about all the unless I missed something, what about all the panels that have interpretive information that are, have picture drawings and words and photographs and things like that? Or is that in this package? Did I miss something, or is that coming later? What's happening with those?
That is a great question. And it is not in this package. We definitely are in queue for funding. As you can imagine, any updates require a lot of vetting. And so we do have that as it's really a separate group that re-reviews the content. Some of them are quite old. And so we do need to do some language corrections, and then those will all be reproduced. What's really great about those is you could just order new panels and drop them in. It's really relatively straightforward, but our goal is to review them and update them accordingly. In some cases, we'll actually have to move a few of them. We're rerouting a section of, and this would be a Concord sign. We are rerouting a portion of the Battle Road Trail off of Lexington Road at what is known as the Inferrara House, and that's right near Shadyside Ave. So we do have a wayside about Brooks Hill. It's in Concord, right at the edge of town. That will have to be relocated. Not by far, but I think clearing the Beatty House site will actually really help us decide where to put that, because the sight lines will be better for the battle scene.
Hmm. I guess now that I just have you here, and we're talking about, you did some of these archaeological finds, and I've been to other lectures given by people from the park that, that a lot of artifacts are in storage. Is there any plan as part of this project before 2025 to put some of those things on exhibition somewhere?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I know you have lots of stuff.
We do have lots of stuff. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
We've been so focused on the physical, like exterior components of the park. But it's a great question.
I'll put in a second, because I remember going to the archives there. I mean, you have drawings, you have all kinds of really nifty stuff, but no way to exhibit it.
The one location where we do have a lot on display is the Wayside, and we are trying to have that. It closed up pretty tight during COVID, because when you're on tour, you're in very close proximity to other people. But we have been opening it more, and there are a lot of objects in the collection on display. A related project is the Case House collection. And so there was, he's also known as Casey Whitney, but a enslaved person who came back to Concord and resided on the Whitney property. In the course of the study, we've removed Whitney as his last name. He was emancipated. So we're re-examining an enormous archaeological collection. And so certainly the hope is that there will be some objects within this collection that we can put on display.
Yeah,
I don't know what the procedure is or the protocol, but are you allowed to share your findings with us that you find on the archaeological sites?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have some of them, right? Aren't they on our document thing now? There was like a 500-page report that I just saw like an hour ago, and I thought, oh, was I supposed to read this?
Yeah, and that's one that we really do want to keep that buttoned up. So,
500 pages.
well, yeah. So, but,
It was very comprehensive.
So Public Archaeology Lab, they do excellent work. And they did a really nice job on that report.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Casey, because that's the one sign that I really think, well, there's practically nothing on that sign, and it's sort of in the woods, and that's just a really important person who in Concord. And so I'd love to have a better sign that's more in a better place, that more people would read it, closer to the road, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And I did notify the town of Concord that site, the large path that people take up there. It currently drops people right down onto the sidewalk. And so I notified the town of Concord, since Alcott Road was narrowed up a bit, which is really nice. I think it probably makes it safer to cross Alcott Road over to the Orchard House. But what we'd like to do with the large path, which goes by the Case House site, is start it on town of Concord land, this reclaimed land that was Alcott Road. So it's the town of Concord wayside, and get that large path going up sooner. And that will make it a lot safer at the western end, because right now it's kind of a social path. People have dropped down onto the sidewalk, and it really just kind of pitches you right towards the road. So I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but we would love to get the town of Concord to support a safer western end of the Larch Path.
Would that be something that
Yeah.
because there's a trails committee? I'm not sure, is that an official town committee? I'm not sure. I think it is.
I
Would that be?
thought maybe it was more of a right-of-way issue, bringing a trail down. So it's almost like a roads. I think I've been in communication with engineering.
So that's not something we would give our blessing on, that we wouldn't be concerned with that. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, the only reason you might want to weigh in is it is in one of the local historic districts.
Then we couldn't weigh
Okay.
in. Because that would be an
Oh.
HTC issue.
Historic-
Oh, yeah, okay.
Historic Commission. That'd be the historic
That's
district.
another meeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about the signs or the landscape project? And just heads up on the signs, we are still waiting to develop the signs for the square area. We don't have those yet. So you'll be hearing either you or the Historic District Commission will be receiving more information as the sign contractor prepares draft signs.
What do you mean with the square area?
Monument Square.
Oh.
So if you go through there now, you can see a few very tired Park Service signs that direct you to the North Bridge and the Wayside, but they also, Concord Museum and the Emerson House. They're combined destinations, and so our thought is to add the Robbins House. But they're just very tired, and some of them have just disappeared too.
Well, if it's in Concord Center, Concord Monument Square, that would be an HDC.
Right.
There you go. Yeah, okay.
I have a question. The parking lot across from the Wayside. Is that national park land?
Yes.
Because I'm working on a tercentenary report, and one of the signs is there.
Correct.
Okay, I might need to talk to you about that.
Okay. Yeah.
We're-
I have my eye on it. Yeah. I thought, they're all getting updated across the state, right?
It's a long story, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to talk about it here. Is it, Melissa?
Oh,
We're trying, I've spent hours and hours and hours on this. We are actually trying to be the first town to take them down.
Oh, okay.
Because some of them are inappropriate,
Yes.
offensive, and not all the tercentenary signs are, but some. So, and I just dawned on me that one is on national park land, and that might affect who we have to go for permission to, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Any other comments? Nothing? That encapsulate all, that's the signage, landscape, archaeology. So that's everything.
Is this the end of the meeting?
As according to our script, yes.
I was wondering if I could just ask one question. My name is Bill Crowley, and I
Sure.
live on Estabrook Road. And I've never attended a meeting before. And I just joined this one because I had a question about another topic that I don't think is on the agenda, but it has been in the past. And it's about the barns. I think the Kai's family barns on Liberty Road. And is that a topic that's being handled by this committee?
I think that's HDC.
HDC.
Yeah,
Okay, so
not here.
HTC.
So if that's HDC, so to find out, so would I, if I want to get updated on that, would I just call HDC during the day or send them an email, I guess, from the the website?
Yes, you can send me an email. I'm in the planning department and I'm the liaison both to the Historical Commission and the Historic Districts Commission.
Okay, great. And what's your name?
Anne Clifford.
Ann
So-
Clifford. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. I'll send you an email, Ann, and I really appreciate it. And sorry to kind of interrupt with a topic that's off topic.
That's okay. That's okay.
Well,
Not a
thank you very
problem.
much.
All right. So I think that's it. Is that everything? So short and sweet.
I just wanted to confirm, did you need any follow-up from the park?
At this point, I don't believe we do. Ann? I think we're good with the park service, right?
Right, I think we are good.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
So I guess that's it. So the meeting